If you are a fan of custom motorcycles, you probably have some frustrations as well. Whenever we see a new modern motorcycle on the market, the first thing we want to know is whether it can be modified. A kind of Taylor's syndrome. It is frustrating to find a motorcycle which is excellent in everything, except on the general aesthetics. And it's even more frustrating if it can't be customized. As you can see, this BMW seems to be one of these cases. But surprisingly, there is one builder who hasn't given up. And what he achieved surpassed anything I could have imagined. Welcome to Racertv. Most people will probably say, this machine is fabulous. Others will say, it is very impressive. And I can only agree, adding that it is genius. It's not every day that we get to see such an exceptional project like this one. And I can assure you, you will be even more impressed when you hear the details about it. Not to mention the engine's nervous temperament. This beautiful BMW is the latest work from Renard Speed Shop, located in Estonia. Interestingly, Renard Cycles was founded in 1938, starting out as a motor bicycle factory. Unfortunately, the factory was destroyed during the Second World War. And so in 2008, Renard Speed Shop was founded, paying homage to the 1930s brand and producing high-quality hand-built motorcycles. And from what we see in this project, they take the level of quality very seriously, because every detail of this motorcycle looks absolutely perfect. As I said in the introduction, this project is based on a BMW that is excellent in everything, except aesthetics. Furthermore, it seems very far from being an ideal bike to be modified. But somehow, Renard Speed Shop's team managed the impossible. And so a reimagined R1250R was born. The first time I saw this BMW, it was hard to believe that a project as original as this could be created out of nothing. And why do I say this? Because it looks very futuristic and so ahead of its time. In other words, it seems to me that there is a gap in the evolution of these lines. And only later did I realize I was right. This is the Renard GT, a carbon monocoque-based power cruiser with a Moto Guzzi heart, their first and very ambitious custom project. And if we compare it with the BMW, you will see that there is a certain evolution in the general lines. And when I say evolution, I also mean this approach is now much more mature and elegant. Never thought that the R1250R could look like this. If you look closely, you'll notice that the overall stance of the BMW has become completely different. Now it looks much longer and much lower. Although there is a certain bobber flavor to the seat, the Renard Speed Shop team prefers to call it a city cruiser. But what's really interesting is that all the modifications were made while maintaining the original factory frame structure. It's obvious that the subframe was removed. But to be honest, I didn't expect this main structure to be intact. And I bet you didn't expect it either. which is perfectly normal when we see that the wheelbase has changed. The secret to this modification is here. A new lower fork yoke. And I must say, what a magnificent piece. This means the rack angle has changed significantly. And aesthetically, it makes all the difference. I did a test on Photoshop. Without a doubt, the bike's stance becomes much more fluid and elegant. Not to mention that it avoids several other problems. The most interesting is that the suspension forks were maintained. The covers that hide the front suspension were made on a 3D printer. But all the panels and fuel tank are completely handmade from aluminum. I must say that the level of precision in these panels is truly impressive. Notice the openings for the brake pedal and the gear selector. This front grille is undoubtedly one of the highlights of this project, and it looks absolutely magnificent. It may not have the traditional kidney shape, but looking at the brand's latest models, this seems to be the most futuristic trend. The Akrapovic titanium mufflers are also a very bold choice, especially since they were originally made to fit the Ducati Panigale Superleggera. Placing the LCD panel on top of the fuel tank was also a wise choice, allowing for this clean and minimalist design on the handlebar. Although this project is more intended to be a show bike, according to the Renard Speed Shop team, it is still a perfectly rideable motorcycle. The change of the steering rake angle may have caused some instability at low speeds, but after 15 km/h, the riding experience is very good and quite pleasant. By the way, this unique BMW is currently for sale. If you're interested, there's a link in the video's description. I should clarify that the Renard Speed Shop also has another division where it produces a Racertv version based on the BMW R100, which is also quite interesting. And in this case, it is a much more practical and comfortable motorcycle. But it's certainly not as original and spectacular as this reimagined R1250R. One of the things I most admire about this approach is undoubtedly the mix between the classic and futuristic styles. It is very rare to find a project with these two styles so well integrated. And I can only congratulate the Renard Speed Shop team for creating such a remarkable example of what the future of motorcycles can be. Thank you for watching Racertv. And as always, I hope to see you on the next video.